Hey, you. You're finally awake.
The N64 was a great console, and there were many great games that never took that top 10 spot. So today I'm going to be looking at 10 underrated games for the N64. These are 10 games which will probably not make people's top 10 or even top 20, and I want to shine a light on them. As always, if you think I'm wrong, or if you think I've got it right, or there's ones I need to talk about, please put it in the comments below. If you really think I deserve it, please hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be told when new videos are coming out. We've also got a weekly podcast, and we've also got a $1 a month Patreon, and you can find the link in the description below. Right, let's get into it, shall we? 10 underrated games for the N64. Harvest Moon 64. Released back in 1999, Harvest Moon 64 is widely considered the go-to of the series by long-time fans. It's got that chunky 64-bit charm and surprisingly deep mechanics for a game about watering turnips. Your grandpa passes away and leaves you his absolutely messed up farm, but you've got 2.5 years to turn the place around before your dad comes to evaluate your progress, because of course he does. You spend your days clearing weeds, smashing rocks and planting crops. It's repetitive, but just in that one more day addictive kind of way. You can raise chickens, sheep and cows, keep them fed and happy, and they'll give you eggs, wool and milk to sell. You do this at Flowerbud Village, and it's full of quirky NPCs. And building relationships is just as important as farming, so you want to see everything the game has to offer. But once you save enough money, you can build a greenhouse. This is the ultimate cheat code because it lets you grow crops regardless of the season, even in winter, and time freezes while you're inside. That's not physically possible. Now, there are 5 eligible bachelorettes, and you can woo them with gifts, get married, and even have a kid. It's busy for 2.5 years. The calendar is packed with events like the Horse Race, the Flower Festival, and the Spooky Spirit Festival, and they're great for breaking up the manual labour. For a cute game, it's surprisingly dark and emotional at times. Characters deal with family drama, alcoholism, and grief, giving the world a lot of soul. But time moves fast in this world. You really have to manage your stamina and your schedule if you want to get your chores done before the bars open. As you hit major milestones like winning a race or getting married, you can collect photos in an album. It's a super satisfying way to track your life in the village. Now, there are some quirks here. It's an isometric view that can be a bit finicky when you're trying to aim a watering can. You've also got to manage your stamina. If you work too hard or stay out in the rain, you'll collapse and wake up in the clinic, so you've got to pace yourself. But throughout the world, there are hidden power nuts that permanently increase your max stamina. Finding them is essential if you want to farm the whole field without passing out. Harvest Moon is a cozy, nostalgic time capsule of 90s gaming. It's less about beating the game and more about finding a rhythm, balancing the hard work of agriculture with the social life of a small town bachelor. It's charming, a little bit janky by modern standards, but incredibly heartfelt. Ogre Battle 64. Ogre Battle 64 is the king of political drama and managing a literal army. It's one of the deepest strategy RPGs ever made, featuring a story that's way more mature than N64 is for kids stereotype. You play as Magnus Gallant, that's an awesome name, a fresh military academy grad who gets caught in the middle of a civil war. You start off quelling a peasant revolt, but quickly realise your government may be the bad guys, leading you to join the revolution. It's a real-time tactical game. You don't control every sword swing, instead you build up squads of up to 5 units, point them at a target on a huge map, and they march off there in real time. When they bump into an enemy, a semi-automated battle kicks off. This is where the addiction lives. You can mix and match dozens of classes, knights, ninjas, dragons, griffins and mages to create the ultimate death squad. It's a long game though, easily 40-50 hours, and you're going to spend half your time on the battlefield and the other half managing the menus and all your troops' equipment and classes. Every character has an alignment in this game, which is either lawful, neutral, or chaotic. It changes based on who they kill and the level compares to the enemy. It's a massive balancing act because certain classes like paladins require high alignments, while others like black knights require you to be a bit of a dick. When you take a town, you either go liberate it or capture it based on your squad's alignment versus the town's morale. Liberating makes the public love you, but capturing them makes you fear you. There is a hidden reputation stat called the Chaos Frame. Your choices and how you treat the towns determine one of the 3 main endings you get. Getting the best ending is actually notoriously difficult. The story is pretty dense, as I mentioned in the beginning. It deals with class warfare, religious corruption, and family betrayals. It's like Game of Thrones if everyone was a 2D sprite on a 3D map. Later in the game, you can get multiple squads into one massive legion. It's visually awesome, but can be a nightmare to navigate through tight mountain passes. And because of this, the game can feel a bit slow by modern standards. Characters move across the map at a realistic, leisurely pace, so you gotta be patient. Depending on your choices though and who you talk to, you can recruit completely different special story characters, giving it huge replay value. Ogre Battle 64 is a masterpiece of strategy that rewards players who love to tinker with systems. It's a game about the grey areas of war where being a good guy isn't always easy and every victory has a cost. It's complex, visually iconic for the N64 and feels incredibly epic in scale. Star Wars Rogue Squadron. If Ogre Battle 64 is the thinking man's war drama, Star Wars Rogue Squadron is the adrenaline-fueled arcade dream for anyone who ever wants to jump into an X-Wing and blow stuff up. It basically took the flying sections from Shadows of the Empire, dialed them up to 11, and built an entire game around them. Now, this is set between A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back. You play as Luke Skywalker leading the elite Rogue Squadron. Now in this game, you're not just reliving movie scenes, you're hitting Imperial bases and rescue ops across the galaxy that the movies never showed. This isn't just a complex fight sim, it's fast, snappy, and built for the N64's analog stick. You fly close to the ground, dodging canyons and weaving through AT-AT legs, or AT-AT legs, however you want to call it, I don't care. It's not just the X-Wings, you also get to pilot Y-Wings, A-Wings, and the Snowspeeder. Each one feels distinct. The 8-Wing is a twitchy speed demon, while the Y-Wing is a tanky, sleepy hut that drops bombs. With 16 main levels, you're destroying everything from escorting convoys and protecting towns to full-on search and destroy missions. Now, there's a medal system in this game, and that's where the replay value lives. Depending on your kills, accuracy, and time, you earn bronze, silver, or gold medals. Getting gold is brutally hard, but essential for unlocking the real rewards. If you're good enough, or you know the cheat codes, you can unlock legendary levels like the Death Star Trench Run and the Battle of Hoth. The game is packed with secrets, like you can fly the Millennium Falcon, the TIE Interceptor, and in a legendary 90s marketing move, the Naboo Starfighter, which was hidden in the code months before the Phantom Menace even hit theatres. For an N64 cartridge, the audio is insane. It features tons of voice acting and authentic Star Wars sound effects that make every TIE fighter screech feel legit. Now, there is technical quirks here. The N64 struggled with draw distance, so many planets have a thick layer of colourful fog. We all love that fog. It actually adds to the atmosphere, but sometimes an AT-AT will jump out and like a jump scare. If you have the N64 expansion pack, the game jumps from standard to high-res mode, and is one of the first games to actually really show off what the extra RAM could do for texture and crispness. This had a roll button, not a barrel roll, but if you push the R button to roll your ship in the difference between being an ace and being space dust. It's the only way to pull off tight turns and look cool doing it. Star Wars Rogue Squadron is pure, unfiltered wish fulfillment for Star Wars fans. It's an arcade flight action masterpiece that prioritises speed and spectacle over complex controls. While the distance fog is a reminder of the era, the tight gameplay and massive amounts of unlockable content keep it light years ahead of most other licensed games from that time. Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey. Now, this can be considered the NBA Jam of hockey. It's loud, ridiculous, and cares way more about big hits and flaming nets than the actual rules of the NHL. It's an arcade port through and through. You pick from the real 1996 NHL rosters, including the Great One himself, and jump straight into a fast-paced, high-scoring madness. You can play simulation mode with 5 players and penalties, but nobody does that. The arcade mode is the star. It's 3-on-3, the rink is tiny, and the refs basically don't exist. The controls are simple. 1 button to shoot, 1 button to pass, and a turbo button that you should probably be holding down at all times. This game was 4-player mayhem. It's peak friendship ruining material when you and 3 buddies are screaming at the screen. If you take a power shot, shooting turbo for the right spot, the puck literally turns into a fireball. If it goes in, the net literally catches fire and the goalie gets knocked flat on his back. Now when the goalie's on fire, they literally transform into a brick wall that fills the entire net, and it's physically impossible to score until the effect wears off. It's legendary for being hilariously repetitive. You will hear Robin and his merry men are at it again approximately 400 times per game, and honestly, it never gets old. If you check someone too many times, the game stops one-on-one brawl. It's basically button mashing, but the winner gets a power-up and the loser gets sent to the penalty box. This game was actually a big deal because it used 3D models instead of flat 2D sprites. For 1996, seeing actual 3D players move at 60 frames per second was mind-blowing. The game is famous for its specials menu. You can enter codes to give players giant heads, make them tiny, or turn them into literal giants. Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey is a loud, sweaty, 64-bit fever dream. It's not for people who want a deep management sim, it's for people who want to check their friends through the glass and set a goalie on fire. It captures that specific 90s arcade energy where realism took a backseat to pure, unadulterated fun. Killer Instinct Gold. Killer Instinct Gold could be seen as the king of the 90s edge fighting scene. It's loud, aggressive, and features an announcer who sounds like he's having the best day of his life every time you land a decent hit. This is a direct port of the arcade Killer Instinct 2. After the first game, the fighters are sucked 2,000 years into the past to deal with the demon Lord Gargos. It's basically a time-travelling brawl to the death. This isn't your typical button masher though. Everything is built on the opener, auto-double, linker, ender flow. If you don't know the rhythm, you're just flailing, and if you do, you're an unstoppable god.
You've got a mix of classics and newcomers, from Jago the Ninja and Saberwolf the Werewolf to Kim Woo, a nunchuck-wielding badass, and Tusk, a barbarian with a sword the size of a surfboard. Unlike most fighters where you play the best of 3 rounds, Killer Instinct uses 2 permanent life bars. When one goes, you just keep going from where you stood. It keeps the energy high and the pace fast. But it's the announcer which is really cool. Combo Breaker! The voice acting in this game is legendary. The more hits you get, the more excited he gets, eventually screaming Ultra! So loud it feels like your TV might explode. Now for combos wise, we're talking 20, 30 or even 80 hit plus combos if you're a master. It's visually chaotic in the best way possible, with sparks and shadows flying everywhere. It has no mercy moves, similar to fatalities and ultimates, where you finish a combo with a cinematic execution. It's not quite as gory as Mortal Kombat, but it's definitely got that 90s grit. The developer, which was Rare, went all in on high energy Eurodance and techno soundtrack. It's pumping, intense, and fits the vibe of a neon lit 90s arcade perfectly. Now the characters are pre-rendered 2D sprites, but the stages are full 3D. The camera zooms and pans dynamically, which is a huge technical flex for the N64. It also had a training mode, which for its time was revolutionary. It actually teaches you the science of the combos, showing you exactly which buttons to press and when. It's the only reason most of us actually learn how to play. Now because it moved from massive arcade hard drive to a tiny N64 cartridge, all the full motion video cutscenes were cut. Instead you get static images for the endings. Sucks, but the gameplay remained arcade perfect. And because of that, it runs at a buttery smooth 60 frames per second. In a genre where timing is everything, this made it feel much more responsive than early 3D fighters. Killer Instinct Gold is a fast-paced, high-decibel fighting game that rewards rhythm and memorization over pure strategy. It's the ultimate look-what-I-can-do game for the N64. A flashy technical masterpiece that proved the console could handle intense arcade action. It's a bit of a learning curve, but once you hear that announcer scream for you, you're hooked. FIFA Road to World Cup 98. This could be considered the absolute peak of 90s sports nostalgia, and it's widely considered the game that actually made FIFA cool. Okay, I'll have to say that because I played this so much. I love this more than World Cup 98. As the name suggests, the goal is to take your favourite national team through the grueling qualification rounds into the 1998 World Cup in France. It features 172 national teams, basically every team registered with FIFA at the time. You can play as giants like Brazil or try and win the cup with the minnows like the Cook Islands. On top of the World Cup mode, it also had 11 domestic leagues. You could play as Manchester United or Real Madrid in the morning and lead Italy to glory in the afternoon. The gameplay was a massive leap forward from 1997. It introduced the mouse cursor for free kicks and was much more fluid with passing and shooting. As soon as you hit start, Blur's Song 2 kicks in. That woohoo is burned into the brain of every 90s kid. One feature this game has is 5-a-side football. You play 5-on-5 matches indoor with walls. Indoor 5-a-side football is awesome. The ball never goes out of bounds, the game never stops, and you can bounce passes off the wall to yourself. It was chaos because 5-a-side football is tits. All I can say. The slide tackles though in this game were quite aggressive. You could actually clobber the keeper or launch a flying 2-footed challenge that would get you a lifetime ban in real life, but here was just part of the fun. All I ask everybody is please listen to the podcast episode I've done on this. It is one of the best episodes I have ever done. It was very early on, but oh my god, it is amazing. Even if you don't like football, soccer, please watch it. This game also had a surprisingly deep editor. You could change player names, kits, and even the appearance of your squad, again, which is a big deal for the N64. This also had great audio. Now, the presenter was Des Lynam, and I understand if you're not English, you know you're not going to know who these people are, but it also had John Motz and Andy Gray as the commentary team. And their commentary felt incredibly reactive and professional, and they actually didn't repeat the same lines over and over again every 5 minutes. This is the first FIFA to use the Phoenix engine on the N64, giving the players actual faces, sort of, and much better animations than the cardboard cutout look of previous years. The offside rule was strictly enforced as well, which is both impressive for the tech and infuriating when you're actually on the breakaway. FIFA Road to World Cup is more than just a soccer game, football game, it's a vibe. Between the Blur soundtrack, the 5-a-side mode, and the massive scale of the World Cup journey, it felt like a love letter to football. It managed to be both a serious football simulation and a ridiculous arcade brawler at the same time. Bomberman 64. Bomberman 64. I don't care if people think this game's poo, this is my childhood, so it's going in my list. This game was where an alien named Sirius crashes on Bomberman's planet and tells him that a group called the Masked Trio and their boss Alatar are using a giant fortress to drain the planet's energy. It's up to you to travel to different worlds and blow everything up, because of course. Unlike the old school games where you're stuck in a maze, here you can move in any direction. The bombs also have a circular blast radius instead of the classic cross shape, which changes everything. Here you don't just plant bombs, you can kick them, pick them up, or even pump them into big bombs which have a massive blast radius. The single player mode is a legit 3D platformer, and you have to use your bombs to create bridges, trigger switches, and navigate some surprisingly tricky puzzles. There's also the battle mode, and this is where the game truly lived. 4 players, 1 arena, and a lot of screaming. It's fast, chaotic, and features classic stages like the one where the floor slowly disappears. This was part of my childhood with my brother and my cousins. Now, one pro tip move is where you jump on top of a bomb to reach higher platforms. It turned the game into physics platform where you had to literally build your own path out of explosives. The boss fights here are massive and actually require some brain power. You aren't just spamming bombs, you have to find their specific patterns and weaknesses, like knocking them off platforms or stunning them with big blasts. By playing the single player mode and finding gold cards, you actually unlock different outfits and items to dress up your Bomberman battle mode. It truly felt like the original skins grind. Now, being one of the earlier 3D games however, the camera can be your worst enemy. You have to manually rotate it with the C buttons, and sometimes a wall will get in your way just as a bomb is about to go off. There's also a secret ending, and if you don't collect all the gold cards, the game ends early with a bit of a cliffhanger. To see the real final boss and get the true ending, you have to be a completionist. Now when you do play battle mode, if the timer runs out, the game enters sudden death, where the stage shrinks or fireballs rain from the sky. It's the ultimate way to force a winner and spike everyone's blood pressure. Bomberman 64 is a bold experimental leap into the third dimension that actually stuck the landing. It took a simple plant and run formula and added layers of physics-based puzzles and verticality. Whether you're platforming through colourful worlds or ruining friendships in battle mode, it's a masterclass in explosive fun that still feels unique today. Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible is a 1988 classic that arrived right in the wake of GoldenEye 007, but instead of being a straight shooter, it tried to be a hardcore stealth espionage sim. You play as Ethan Hunt, looking vaguely like 64-bit Tom Cruise, across 20 levels. The plot loosely follows the first movie, Moles, the knock list, and that iconic CIA break-in, but adds a bunch of international terrorist drama to keep things spicy. This isn't a run and gun. You spend more time sneaking through embassies, scanning fingerprints and poisoning drinks than you actually do shooting Uzis. If a guard sees you when they shouldn't be, it's usually game over in seconds. However, the game had a big flex, the gadgets. You had the Facemaker to steal people's identities, explosive gun which was a red and green combo, gas injectors and infrared contacts to see security lasers. It felt like you were playing with a high-tech toolkit, like Batman. It wasn't just walking and shooting though. One level has you snipe from a high tower, another has you hanging from a cable in the CIA vault, and one even has you manning a boat cannon in a river chase. There's nothing cooler in 1998 than knocking out a waiter, using the Facemaker, and then walking right past a guard who saw you just a minute ago. It felt like actual magic using that Facemaker. You also had the CIA vault level, which was clearly the movie's most famous scene. You have to lower yourself on a rope, avoid the laser grid, and keep Ethan from swinging too much or you'll trigger the force sensors. It was incredibly stressful. Now in this game you've got 2 modes, possible and impossible. Impossible isn't just a label, it adds extra objectives and makes the guards so alert they can practically hear Ethan's thoughts. However, this game had tank controls. Ethan moves like he's wearing lead boots. Try to turn him around or jump precisely feels like steering a semi-truck. It was the game's most criticised feature, but it added to that deliberate spy feel. When a guard does spot you though, a giant speech bubble pops over their head saying, "Hey, stop," before they arrest you. It's hilarious now, but it was the stuff of nightmares back then. Now to stop the frame rate from dying, the outdoor levels are covered in a thick blue-grey fog. We do love that blue-grey fog. And one of the most famous glitches is that Ethan falls off a ledge, he often hits the ground, dies, and then screams 3 seconds later. It's a 64-bit comedy staple. It's like an after effect, like he's hit his lungs and you're waiting for the air to come out. Mission Impossible is a bold, ambitious mess of a game that was way ahead of its time. It tried to do social stealth years before Hitman made it the standard. While the controls are clunky and the graphics are peak fog, the sheer variety of gadgets and movie-inspired moments make it one of the most memorable, if punishing, experiences on the console.
Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards. Kirby 64 is the king of, wait, can I mix fire and ice experimentation? It was Kirby's big 64-bit debut, and while it looked like a 3D game, it kept things old school with a classic side-scrolling vibe, often known now as 2.5D. The setup here is that there's a bunch of spooky dark matter clouds invade Ripplestar and shatter the fairy's sacred crystal. One fairy named Ribbon crashes onto Popstar, hits Kirby in the face, standard, and the two team up to travel across 6 planets to find all 100 shards. Now even though the characters and worlds are clunky 3D models, Kirby still moves on a 2D path. The camera twists and turns around the environment, making the world feel huge even though you're just going from left to right. For the first time, Kirby isn't going solo. Throughout the levels, you're joined by Waddle Dee, Adeline the Painter, and even King Dedede, who occasionally let you ride on his back so he can smash stuff with his hammer. The goal is to beat the game by finishing levels, but if you want the real final boss and happy ending, you have to find every single crystal shard hidden in the game. Now, this game's legendary hook, instead of getting one power, you can inhale 2 different enemies and combine their abilities, and there are nearly 30 different combinations to find. You could turn into a refrigerator that shoots food at people, ice plus spark, a giant exploding firework, fire plus bomb, or a double-ended Darth Maul lightsaber, cutter plus spark. Experimenting is the best way to see how this game works. The game pulls a bit of Mission Impossible twist. If you don't get 100% of the shards, the final boss isn't actually the mastermind, and the ending is pretty creepy. Collecting everything reveals the secret 7th world and the real big bad. There's also multiplayer in this game. There are 3 4-player minigames, a 100-yard hop race, a fruit catching contest, and checkerboard chase, where you try and make some of your friends fall through the floor. Now, unlike other Kirby games where you fly forever, Kirby 64 gives him a stamina bar for hovering. If he gets too tired, he starts turning sweaty and slowly drifts back to Earth. This is one of the few N64 games that actually want you to use the D-pad instead of the analog stick. It does feel a bit weird at first because who holds the N64 like that? It's weird. The game also has 0 dialogue. All the story beats are told through adorable pantomime cutscenes where the characters just make cute noises and expressive faces. Some of the bosses here are also massive and use the 3D space in really cool ways, like a giant robot that you have to take down piece by piece, or a spooky whale that chases you through a tunnel. Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards is a cozy, imaginative masterpiece that replaces difficulty with pure discovery. It's a game built for people who love to tinker with systems, spending hours just to try and find the coolest power-up combos possible. It's short, sweet, and definitely has that late-era N64 polish that makes it feel like a warm hug in a video game form. And finally, Pokemon Snap. Okay, look, I'm going to put this out there. I know this is a bit of, what would you say, a cult classic, but I don't think people put this in their top 10, hence why I'm saying it's underrated. You can argue me in the comments, I'm just saying it. Now, Pokemon Snap, I love this game. I've played this to death when I was a kid. Professor Oak needs someone to go to Pokemon Island to take high-quality research photos. You play as Todd Snap, a photographer who doesn't believe in fighting, just getting the perfect shot. In reality, Professor Oak wants you out the lab because he's clearly there with Ash's mum. Now, you don't actually control where you move in this game. You're on a fixed track through 7 different habitats, the beach, tunnel, volcano, etc., and your only job is to look around 360 degrees and snap pictures of Pokemon before they disappear. At the end of every run, Professor Oak judges your photos based on size, pose, technique, and whether there are other Pokemon in the frame. He's a bloody tough critic though, and if the Charizard is a pixel too far to left, he's gonna let you know, the prick. Now as you progress, you unlock items to interact with the environment. Pokemon food like apples, Pesteballs to knock them out or flush them out, and the Poker Flute to make them dance. And this is where the heart of the game is. If you throw an apple at a Magikarp, it might evolve into a Gyarados. If you knock a Charmeleon into a lava, it comes out as a Charizard. Figuring out these puzzles is how you find the rare stuff. For 1999 though, seeing Pokemon actually living their lives, like Squirtles racing, Slowpokes fishing with their tails, and Pikachu surfing was mind-blowing. It made the world feel alive in a way that the Game Boy sprites really couldn't do. Now, hidden in the background of the levels are geographic formations that look like Pokemon, like a mountain that looks like a Doug Trio, and finding all of these is the key to unlocking the final secret level, against Mew, who is the final boss. Now, you don't need to get the perfect photo of Mew, you just need to get him, but he's trapped in a bubble shield and you've got to use a rhythmic challenge to break it to get the clear shot. It's surprisingly intense for a photography game. And back in the day, you could actually take your N64 memory card, plug it into a Blockbuster video kiosk, and print out your photos of real-life stickers, and that is the peak of future tech. Now, even though there were 151 original Pokemon, only 63 made it into the game. It does feel like a small number, but every single one has unique animations and reactions, so the console probably explode. You also get only 60 shots per run. It sounds like a lot, but when rare Articuno flies over your head, you go and trigger happy with the camera, and you're going to run out of film fast. Now, for its time, the 3D models are some of the best on the system. Seeing a 3D Pikachu up close is a huge deal for fans who had only seen them as 2D drawings. Pokemon Snap itself is a short, sweet, and incredibly replayable rail shooter that swaps bullets for film. It's a game about patience and curiosity, rewarding players who think outside the box to trigger hidden events. It's one of the most relaxing games on the N64, proving that sometimes the best way to interact with a monster is just give it an apple and take its picture. And that's it, 10 underrated games for the N64. What did you think of this list? Did you agree? Do you disagree? And what games do I need to talk about? And let me know some of your memories of the ones I've mentioned. Until then, I'll see you all in a few days from the video. My name's been Danny. Take care of yourself. Bye bye.